What about the issue when you say?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, yeah, well,
All right, I'd like to call this meeting together, Plant Maintenance Subcommittee, July 29th, 2024. Roll call of board members, Mrs. Rizzo,
yeah,
Mr. Kingston, in transit. Fred Sinella, Chairman, present. We're convening today's meeting to address issues that have been mentioned prior and somehow or another have not been accountable for. Maybe we can clear up some of the mysteries that have prevailed and rumors that are flying. I think that while we have Dr. Bellucci here and the Director of Plant Maintenance, why don't we address, I think the easiest one to get under belt is the lock system that has been in place since, I believe, last year. I've witnessed them. It looks simple enough. I don't know if anyone else in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has it, but that's the material we have it. I guess my question would, yes.
I don't know if Brian has somewhere to be.
I'm good.
I didn't want to skip over him if he had another job
Oh,
to go.
thank you
though.
for bringing that to my
Yeah,
attention.
no,
I'm
I just
okay.
want-
Thank
Do
you.
whatever you gotta do.
I don't know whether the personnel has been instructed, if there's been demonstrations, maybe somewhere along the line. The audiovisual department may be able to make a small little snippet where it could be shown at, substitute training missions or something, just so we can have it. I guess the question is, has the personnel been instructed in how to use it?
No, so not as of yet. When we were in this process, shortly after we installed the locks, we heard from inspectional services that there were two issues with the locks. The first was building code that speaks to unlatching. And basically, it's just a simple way of putting it is that a door can't have two locks on it. It can only have one lock, but not two. The other aspect that was a bit problematic was door operations. And that means that you have to, anyone in the room has to be able to open that door without special knowledge. And they were considering the flipping of the lock, although we say it's simplistic, to be some type of special knowledge. And I'm happy to say that the flip lock company has been phenomenal in working through these issues with us. And just as recently as last week, they were able to create 5 prototypes that resolved both of these issues. Dr. Kelly and I sent the new type of flip lock to the building inspector, and we got approval to move ahead with this. The new type, the new gadget that goes under the flip lock, simply when you pull down the door handle, it automatically lifts the lock for the person, so that it does not require any special knowledge, and it is not considered another lock because you're literally opening the door and it lifts the latch for you. I have a video, but I know we may take a little field trip and go see one live.
That's right.
So 2 weeks ago, they came up and installed 5 of them at the high school so that we could see, and then the building inspector could give us the green light before we went district wide again. Part of the reason why the video wasn't disseminated to staff is we were working through this and we didn't want to send a video and then try to unring the bell and then send a new video and say, oh, but we have this new way of doing it. So now that we have approval, we know we have the green light from inspectional services. And after I got that green light, I reached out to the owner of the company. She is trying to get all of these installed by the first day of school. That's her goal. She just has to get the supply. And it's at no cost to the district. They're gonna make it right. We have not given them payment, and we are not getting charged anything extra for this new type of device.
Excuse me, I'd like to mention, school committee member Alicia has shown up. I apologize. Where are we? School committee member Alicia has shown up. I apologize. Where are we? School committee member Alicia has shown up. I apologize. Where are we? School committee member Alicia has shown up. I apologize. Where are we? School committee member Alicia has shown up. I apologize. I'm sorry.
Can I add one
Yes.
piece to that, Richie? The one place where we still have a question mark is here at the high school, because you see most of the doors have these round knobs, which already are not ADA compliant, but that's because this building is so old. And there's no fix for those round knobs. So I mean, regardless of whether we did flip flop or not, those handles are not ADA compliant. So the committee can consider whether they want to change out all of these doorknobs to make them ADA compliant, or knowing that we're gonna be in a new building in 3 years, do we not incur that expense at this time? Hopefully down the road, the city is gonna be applying to the MSBA to do a renovation of this building to make it a central middle school. At that time, that could become changing those doorknobs would be part of that upgrade, because the building needs to be compliant. My own recommendation would be that we wait, but the committee can certainly weigh in. And the other place where this is a question mark is at the Lincoln, where some, not all, of the doorknobs are like this, again, because it's an older building.
All right, open up to members of the committee, subcommittee first, please.
I just, where we are not compliant, are we being fined?
No,
And do they give you a timeline of when we need to be?
they did previously 45 days, and the inspector has since given us the approval on that and said that we're clear.
Till we build a new one? Or clear till
Just that the method that the
Are you talking about the flip flop or the round knob?
the round knobs?
Oh. So,
we're not required to do that upgrade. It's one of those things that gets grandfathered, kind of like if
Mhm.
you have an older building and you don't have sprinklers,
Makes sense.
you're not required to put sprinklers in.
Thank you.
Alicia,
Are the doorknobs that remain, are they in the classrooms, like holes any rifts or anything like that?
These ones,
The ones
They-
we're worried about?
they are in the classrooms. They're on almost every door in this building. The ones that have the doorknobs that are up to code, which are the ones that you do this, are in the east wing, because we've done more recent renovation down there.
What makes them not, do you know what makes them not ADA compliant?
Somebody with
Can't.
special needs
Might
might
not
not
be able
know,
to
be able to
turn.
turn it, or if they have a physical handicap, they might not be able to turn it. Whereas the flip ones, they've determined are more accessible, because you could even do this if you had a hand issue
Okay,
to open that.
okay. And then my other question was, were we reliant on the flip flop company for the information that we received before we installed them?
We did, yeah.
Okay. I know that you had, done a thorough
Yeah.
background, and I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, how did we miss that? But if I assumed we relied on information from them, that these were all,
correct,
did.
and I think that's why they made it right.
and that's why they're making it right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough.
So they had used code they had put on their website that it was all compliant. And code compliant, fire compliant, ADA compliant, all of that. And then, but the codes in Massachusetts are a little bit different. And that's where even when we verbally said, do you have clearance? They said yes. And then when we found out they didn't, I will say they've been responsive in finding a solution, but it's still
No, I know, good,
frustrating that we
Yeah.
got here,
but,
yeah.
okay,
And what might work in one city or town doesn't necessarily
Exactly.
work in Revere, because it's codes depending on
Right,
the
yeah.
person.
And even, I mean, we had run this through with the police department, with the fire department, with the mayor's office, like with everybody,
Yeah.
and none of us anticipated
yeah.
what the
hearing
outcome
this.
was, so.
And I
yeah.
will say, if we do take the trip and see it, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
What they came up with.
All right, and then my last question was, you said the timeline was hopefully they would all be installed by first of
Yeah.
school. And then what are we send it around a video to the staff?
Yeah,
and
do you want to
teachers,
just
or-
show them
I can,
so
yeah.
they can see? I was trying to look if I could pull it up here, because I know I emailed it to the mayor at one point, but you guys can't see my computer anyway. It would be on the Zoom though.
So now when I push, see that chain?
Mhm.
It does it automatically. I don't, you don't even have to touch it. This is new lock in it. Right? And then if I press that, then I see the cherry.
Mhm.
You
Oh,
don't even have to touch it. So it's called
Oh, that's
one
great.
motion swing. Yeah,
okay, that's great.
yeah. They were awesome.
Stacy, you all set?
I am, thank you.
I think that for opening remarks is I'm disappointed that we got into a pig in a poke. No matter who was responsible for selling the product. I mean, shame on them for not knowing the state laws. If they're selling in other states, I hope they're a little more compliant with what's available. I'm the locks, you can't have two locks on the same door. This is a safety feature. You don't want 12 people being able to open it, because if somebody panics and they open it, everyone's at risk. So, I mean, but that's the law. I'm not saying that would have to be rewritten. Here we are, almost a year into the product and we still haven't resolved it. It's in the makings of resolving it, which sounds good. A new wrinkle is the round knobs. Did I understand that the company be responsible for adapting them, or are we gonna be responsible for
That would
changing
be
them?
us, if we
Okay.
wanted to do it.
Carl, any idea of how many doors are gonna require it? And what cost?
It's every door in this high school, with the exception of the east wing.
Okay, and the school?
The Lincoln School is just about every classroom door. I don't know the exact number of doors, but we priced it and it was around $50,000 to do the Lincoln School, to bring the handles up to.
That's the Lincoln, okay, and plus what we have here. So we could talk in the vicinity of well in excess of $100,000.
I would say more based
Okay,
on
in
this being
excess.
probably
Size of
3
the
times.
building, yeah.
Well, we plan on exiting this building in a few years. I wouldn't recommend spending the money here, but the Lincoln may be something that we look.
At least maybe the special needs classrooms,
Yeah, in the back, they have
just to
special
cover, you know,
needs.
just to
Yeah.
cover.
It's something that we're gonna face eventually anyway, just these doorknobs being out of compliance with or without the flip lock.
All right, has this been taken under advisement for the new school? I mean, that if this program goes in, it'll be put in when the building's built, not something as an afterthought?
It would have to be, right?
That's something that we're gonna have to make sure that we're
Okay,
getting,
okay.
whether it's
Well, maybe
this
it's
or
a
something
learning
else.
lesson for us where we have this monumental,
I would hope that there's a second means to emergency lock a door in the new high school.
okay.
And I'll just say that I did speak to the MSBA about this already, and obviously the new high school will have code compliant doorknobs,
Latches, yeah.
but they will not participate in a secondary lock on the door. That's something the district would have to fund ourselves. Oh, so we
Okay,
wouldn't get
so
reimbursed for
There
that.
are built-in means to achieve this with new door hardware. So you wouldn't encounter this sort of issue and that sort of device in a new building, because the hardware they sell nowadays is adapted to what people who run schools want to see. There's various options, whether it's thumb turn locks, et cetera. We will get into
So
all
this
that. but
internal like flip locks,
yes,
you will,
The door will
within
be
the
set up
mechanism.
to do lockdown if you want to do lockdown, and
Okay.
always allow
Not
discretion.
necessarily this program.
Oh, so what do we
Yeah.
do with all
Correct.
these flip locks then that we have in this building?
Scrap.
Gonna sell them to Chelsea.
No, this will be the middle school.
Oh, that's what
Eventually,
we'll say.
you'll want it here, yeah.
Okay.
I'll also mention that, I believe there's legislation right now to change the
There
building
is.
code. For these locks. I don't know when that would ever get approved, but it is being considered right now.
The purpose of the code that we're talking about with the one motion, open a door, is from years ago when schools were typically made out of wood, and if they caught fire, it's the fire code that's in violation of having more than one motion to open a door is a violation of the fire code. That is, in my mind, less of a threat now than some kind of an issue where we would want to lock people into a room and not let anybody access it. And I think that the code in the legislature just needs to catch up to those two different tensions from where we were to where we are.
Mhm. Yeah,
But whatever happens, the doors will be accessible to anybody to open.
Say that again.
With the new process, anyone in that classroom, a kid could
Yeah.
go up and open the door.
Yeah,
So if it's cold, we can't, that's scary because the thing here is you want someone in charge, like my question before, I was gonna ask is, who, or what's the code, or is there a code that unlocks them automatically? In other words, when the problem is over, the threat is non-existing, how are they unlocked? I mean, how are people notified? Okay, the danger's gone, back to normal.
So you'd probably do an announcement over the PA,
No call.
like we do now, and
Okay.
saying, you know, the lockdown has ended. You may open your classroom doors or something like that. It's gonna depend on the situation, right?
Right.
If it's a situation where something did happen, what we have trained our teachers to do is nothing unless a police officer comes to the door and tells you to do it. We
Okay,
don't
so
want
you
you to
have-
listen to
You
a
have
PA.
had interaction with the teachers regarding,
Well, just in general.
oh, okay.
In our
Oh,
general
okay,
train
any
safety
alarm,
training,
any alarm,
yeah.
okay.
If something were to happen, you don't react until a police officer comes to your door, identifies himself and tells you the threat is lifted.
That's good, that's good.
And that would still be the same with the flip flop.
All right, so I guess for the committee's purposes, the concern we have is the cost of changing locks, changing door handles at a considerable expense. The compliance, if it's legislation, we have no control over it. Mr. Kingston has joined
I
us.
apologize, I had a doctor's appointment and ran a little over.
You're lucky you're still here today with Dr. Bade. You could still be sitting there.
I got an early appointment and yeah, it was almost on time.
So can we make a recommendation to send this to Ways and Means for
Of course.
50,000 for
Anything
Lincoln,
that the committee does agree to.
please?
Can we just take a minute to fill in for Mr. Kingston's? Apparently, the system we have isn't what we thought we had. We take 2 seconds.
Oh, yeah,
If you will,
absolutely,
Please,
yeah. So,
committee beer with us, please.
we had heard from the building inspector in regards to two problems. You and I spoke about
With the
this.
flip flop.
Yeah, the first was unlatching, meaning you can't have more than one lock on a door. And the second was the door operations, that it can't require any special knowledge, and they were considering that little act, special knowledge. So the company has been working with us. They developed 5 prototypes that they then installed in the east wing, where it's now one motion. I'll show you the video so you can see.
Oh, don't, no, I don't want to take up the committee's time. We should do it another time.
It's 2 seconds.
And then we
they
can
have-
walk
so
down.
I
we can walk
apologize
down
for
and
being
see them
late.
after,
And
too.
tell him the good
So now
news,
this is
because
what
that's
they
what he's worried about.
developed at no cost to us. They're gonna fix. So when you just,
No call.
when you touch the handle, it
No
flips the lock
No
for you.
cost.
But it has to be a handle and not a knob.
But it has to be a handle and not a knob. So that's what Mr. Sinella was talking about. And regardless of.
Knobs are not ADA, so
Right,
Right,
exactly.
yeah.
I'm aware of that, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, all new construction has.
yeah.
So it's 50 grand for the handles, is that what we're talking about?
At the
Yeah.
At the
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
Just for once?
So the only place where we have a question mark is this building in the Lincoln. And Kyle priced out for the Lincoln, it would be about 50,000 to
Wow.
redo all of the doorknobs there. Here, it would be about 3 times that, and we're thinking,
Skipped it.
right, we're gonna be out of here in 3 years, and then when this building gets renovated way down the road for a middle school, you will have to change the doorknobs, but hopefully it's through the MSBA, it's a project through the MSBA, so you'll have the reimbursement.
Yeah. Wow, $50,000 for knobs.
Right.
No one would believe that.
MSBA is supposed to be putting a school committee member on their board, and I
Oh.
was asked if I wanted my name
Awesome,
on it.
oh wow, that's great.
That's awesome.
I don't.
Oh, you don't? Why
Why
not?
That'd be great.
Don't waste all that knowledge.
Huh?
I
It's too
agree.
much time. It's a lot of time,
Oh,
but
you'd be good at it.
John, any further questions?
No, sir. No, I don't want to.
All right, to Kyle, your recommendation would be to hold off on changing the knobs, but proceeding to the implements at no cost to the school department. Have I missed anything on that? Not the knobs, the chain, ease of opening.
Right, I mean, if we're discussing changing the Lincoln School, I would recommend that. I think that's a hill we're gonna
Because
have
it's
to
useless,
climb.
they can't use it at all.
It's right now, they can still use it, but they're out of compliance. They
Yeah.
can still use the flip lock, but
Oh,
we're
okay, I misunderstood.
considered grandfathered in. The problem is it's a 2-motion
Okay,
operation
Well, that's-
to unlock it.
okay, so there's 2 proposals on.
And since we anticipate having that Lincoln School online for, like, there's no intention of ever taking it offline, we should do the work to bring it up.
Okay, no, what I want to present to the regular the whole committee is option A, B, C, and D.
Mhm.
If it's a necessity, money plays in, but it's not paramount. So I think that the remarks that have been made, especially Alicia, with you are talking the special needs classes at the Lincoln. Okay,
Well, the whole Lincoln. would have
No,
to
no,
be
no, no,
done.
I
And
understand
then
it, but
I
that's
think the
even an
small
added-
learning Groups
Yeah.
here,
Mhm.
I've
Yeah.
got the new word, but the small learning
Yeah.
groups here should be
Yeah.
done.
okay,
Mhm.
So
Agreed.
I'll make that recommendation.
all right, while we have Mr. Dakin here, who graciously, is given of his time, I think that, when I came on board, there was great discussion about, portable classrooms to get us through the 3 or 4 years or whatever it's gonna take to build a new high school. Would you have you been, privy to any, research that you have volunteered to do?
Yeah, I could maybe a quick status update, if that's all right. Well, would be good. So we brought on, city brought on CSS Architects a few months ago. They have a 5-task contract set up. The first task in their contract is complete. It was the first 5-6 weeks of it. It's called pre-design services. Initial meetings with the school to know what you folks needed, code and regulatory review, and reviewing some basic layouts to figure out what can fit out there. That portion of it's been done. They're in task 2 right now, schematic design. Our schedule had this meeting being a presentation of the summary of schematic design. They're not ready for it. I apologize for that. The reason they're not ready for it, well, I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but what did come up is that where we want to put these classrooms, right behind the building where the buses park. Don Chiarmello of the city noted that there's a few water mains and drainage pipes running under there that they've had problems with. Even in the last year or two, there's been some breakage on that line. So the suggestion was, if we were going to sit classrooms out there, to do a few additional borings. The borings are what sort of set schematic design task back a few weeks. However, the report did come through. Borings were done the first week of July. The report came through on Friday. 2 things we're looking at in that report. One, confirmed there's no hazardous materials in that area, which is great. So that's step 1. The whole reason we're looking into what's underground is the thought from the city and the engineers on this is if you were to just rent a trailer and put it there, and wherever that bears on the ground, if it's bearing on the wrong spot, you might end up with a water main breakage, a continuous problem. So question 1 was, if we have to dig, are there hazardous materials? Answer is no. That's good news. Question 2, the engineers are working on it. Do we have to do anything special to these trailers to make them sit on the ground in a manner that doesn't bear weight on 1 or 2 specific points? That is what they need this week to complete that analysis. That will allow us to say, do we need, I think screw piers are what they're called. They're almost like, if you picture a deck, the old sonotubes, something like that, I think is going to be needed out there that's straddled around the utilities. But then those trailers that are sitting on top of it are adapted to bear on those points instead of just the little legs they come with. So the architect is nearing completion of schematic design. They have to turn the report we got Friday into a foundation recommendation. And then they need to do a full cost estimate. They have committed to being ready within the next 2 weeks, so they could present this as early as next week. I don't want them to not reach the finish line again. So I would say like 2 weeks from today might be a good day to meet. A little further might be good. I'm gonna stay on them, but we'd like to come back to you saying the first 2 tasks are complete and say, here's a layout, here's a cost estimate, and here's what we can do to bid this. I have a lot more thoughts about the limitations of how to bid this. But right now, I think the decision, as I understand it with this committee, is do you want the architect to complete the schematic design phase, understanding I'm calling them 2 weeks behind, which would at least give you a full cost estimate. And then the option to move them into procurement documents to get this bid and implemented. So sort of pause there. If anybody wants to talk about time frame, we can.
So Brian, there's no chance we're having it for the fall.
No,
No.
we
And
knew that though.
I
We
think
knew that.
one important, well, the core reason is the only way the school or city could call up a place that has modular classrooms and just buy them directly, is if you could roll them up and plug them in.
Right.
Like an RV park. If there's any supporting construction required, mass procurement law, and Michael Picardi, some folks at City Hall I've talked to, we as well, it becomes a construction project. We would need to modify the electrical system of this building to basically be able to plug these in. We're gonna need to dig some sort of hole and probably put in screw piers. There might be a little bit of other work. Once you have that construction that comes along with this, it's a construction project, not a procurement of modular trailers. So if I were to get someone on the phone right now who had a dozen trailers at their shop, used, ready to go, the city could only act on that if you could roll them in, plug them in, and be done with it, no other construction. Because that's not the case, we have to complete a set of bid documents, advertise the bids, put the bids out, wait for bid responses, and then react. And those bids could include lease prices or used. So it's really push one set of documents out, get a cost bids in for new, for used, for lease, and then make a decision.
And I know one thing that Carl had mentioned, I forget if it was at the last school committee meeting or when, but he had mentioned to the committee that we're this far through this process to have a full set of bid docs and then say, we don't want to do this. It doesn't make sense right now, but to have that completed, we actually save money than to scrap it all right now. And then if 2 years from now, I don't even want to speak out loud what I'm thinking, but if something happened that the high school didn't open on time and we said we're bursting at the seams, we must do something, we would have to re-spend all this money again. Am I paraphrasing correctly,
Right,
Kyle?
now this set of plans and almost the bid docs to be prepared is worth its weight in gold. I mean, it's something we could say, we have it on our desk, if someone wants to say, let's do it, then we do it. The problem, my biggest concern is the money. It seems to be an enormous expenditure that may not have the value, and that's not for me to decide, but the numbers we're getting were a lot larger than anyone ever anticipated when we started this.
Excuse me, Carl, were you referring to the cost of the study or the cost of
No,
the
the
units?
cost of the study, I think, is worth it,
Okay, that's what I
worth its
want to
value.
separate the two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the numbers we're kind of hearing about leasing and procuring or buying,
Okay.
those are the numbers that are up in a spot that weren't even imagined.
Brian, what's the number we're looking at for the study itself?
For the services or so the CSS contract, hold on, I can throw a few numbers together. The pre-design. One
I
second.
sent it to you guys, John. It had the 5 phases in it
Yeah,
with the cost next to
Yeah.
each one.
So. It's 85, so 110 would get you through bid, 110,000 through bidding. And
It
then
was just the phase 1 and phase 2 together.
phase
Brian.
1 and phase 2 is 55,000.
Right, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. So that's
Yeah.
all, so, and then we could.
That's all we're
I guess-
committed to
I
right
guess,
now.
I guess I'm
Yeah.
looking at what the draw price is. Like, is the draw price 55 and we can walk away?
yes, high school.
I want to be into
Yeah.
150 and then.
Yeah,
walk away.
it'd be 55 and then walk away or not, and
Okay.
55 would get you, here's a current cost
No, that's
estimate.
good. No, that's
in the-
fine.
in the
Okay,
whole
I'm
deal.
comfortable with that. I was just worried.
Yeah,
Like
55 to that
150
point.
or something, because then
No.
then you've kind of crossed the bridge there.
That's the problem with going out to bid, is now we've spent another $100,000 to go out to bid to find out that these costs are gonna be enormous.
No,
And
yeah,
we
you
already
made
know
a
that.
Compelling argument last
And
time.
then it
Yeah.
says, okay, we could have cut back because we knew.
That's what I'm looking at
You
now.
know,
I don't want to spend 150 to find out we're not gonna do anything, because then that, I know it's in a draw and it's nice to have, but it's still money that we don't have any longer.
Yeah, it's the
But you're saying
55.
it's, the continuation is worth keeping it in the draw.
We should,
Future
I mean, they're
reference.
already there. At this
Yeah.
point, we'd be fighting not to pay them on work that
Okay,
we already
I just-
commissioned them.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
wasn't going that route. No, that's fine.
Yeah, I think,
Because I was a big proponent of it, but I'll be honest with you, after looking at the cost, I'm just being honest.
It-
I'm not as a big a proponent as I was, and I think Kyle's ideas of finding stuff in this building wherever he can find it, I just think, I hate to spend money, you know, when the building's not gonna, you know, what I mean, the thing it's not needed. If you said to me, John, we gotta do the electrical system in the building, and that has to be done, and we're gonna keep the building, fine, but this is something that'll go away.
Subcommittee member, Rizzo, you have any?
No, I agree with Kyle. I think to have as much information in case we need it down the road is important. I believe the cost for the actual things is not worth. The value is not worth it, and I mean, I'd rather see the handles done at the high school for a much smaller amount.
Yeah, no, I agree. Agree as well.
All right, if I may interject, usually to have everyone's
Thank
input.
you.
You alluded to it in some of the studies. That fill, there used to be the clay pit, half the Scully Square is buried there. In those days, they just dumped it. There could be
I'd say,
copper in there. we
I know
don't
what's down there. We've dug water
No, no,
pipes
that's
and
what I
everything.
wanted that clarification. It's not an easy type thing to say, we're gonna head and do this. Also, the county ditch technically runs from the Hill School all the way down Revere Street, happens to come through our property.
Right.
We were kids, there was a creek you could actually see when it was the brickyard.
See, Brian, I told you they was come.
So the thing here you have is, it's unstable no matter what you do, unless it just sits something on it, and they're not readily available to have them sit. Do you have any documentation when we had the portable classrooms at the McKinley School? I mean, they appeared and then they disappeared.
Yeah,
Right, but the problem with those is that was 15 years ago.
Well,
And the
I'm not
price-
dating it, but I'm
I'm
just
just saying,
curious.
if you look at the price, it's triple. And
Yeah.
that's basically where we're at for everything now compared to 15 years ago.
And
So
you
But
also
those
have
were
to have
just, those were
construction.
just dropped and plugged in. They had toilets. No, no, they
they
had to
didn't
go.
have toilets, but
they
we
had
had
to
to
go
bring
inside.
a gas service. We had to do everything there
Right,
that we
right.
did here.
And that
we
was
did.
solid land. That was,
I
and
think we have
that
the
was a
same
nice
land
flat
here.
surface.
We have it
Yeah.
here. Our problem right now is not the land. We could,
Okay.
we're gonna just figure out if there's certain type of piers. We did the same thing we did here at McKinley to say, can this lot hold these?
units.
And they did it. So that's step one. We did that there. I think we wouldn't have any problem. We would have saw it in the borings if they went down 3 feet and found water. They're finding brick. All that's good stuff for us to say, yeah, that's stuff we want to be able to put a building on. We're not looking at slush or slurry. We've got good solid land here. If we wanted to do it, most likely this report's gonna come back and say, you can definitely do it. These little spots might be a little tricky. We'll come up with an idea to kind of
But
straddle.
that'll solidify whatever, pardon the pun, but that will have backing that it can be
Right.
without having it. I noticed that Rite Aid is closed. Has anyone reached out to see if it's rental there?
I haven't.
Well, what I'm saying is, again, I'm dating myself when I was in high school. The center school across from Little Mac and Field, we used to walk there for industrial arts. You know, home ec, not home ec,
Yeah.
woodworking and sheet metal. And that was a distance. I mean, that's a massive space. All you'd have to do is segment the classroom. I mean, it's power, it's got everything in there. And if they want to rent the whole place, maybe the city can move some of its isolated services under one roof, it's parking and everything else. I would like to just throw out, is it worth reaching out to whoever management at the property and see if they're interested in a 2 or 3 year lease? Then you put
I
everything
think the
under one
mayor's
roof.
office would have to do that, because
Yeah,
they're in
Well, we
charge
can
of
recommend
facilities.
to them,
Yeah.
I'm saying it's so close to the high school.
Yeah,
And it's open space. I mean, it's not tearing walls down, it's just petitioning. And that may solve your problem trying to, 3 feet here, this room here, someplace else.
yeah.
And
Freddie, you're moving in on my Trader Joe's.
on your-
I know, that's what I wanted.
It's gonna be a Trader Joe's.
With 3 years, they can come in, they can take Trader Joe's.
Freddie, you're not the first person to think about.
I would wanna buy it, to be honest with you. We could do anything, then I would want the city to buy it.
But see, you have to understand the mentality of Revere. In the last 20 years, there's been more property when St. Teresa's closed.
Right.
When, I mean, there was so much property, Lady of Lodge, that they could have gotten, I don't even know the process, maybe eminent domain. Just to reserve.
We're on the same
Service
page,
bus
Fred.
lines were on Broadway,
Yeah.
we parked them outside in a lot here, there was a garage, mechanics could work. So the city is not apt to do something logical, practical, and without casting aspersions. But land is tight, you're experiencing it where you're putting the high school. The old drive-in that could have gone there, it could have gone, Necco right across the street. I mean, so that's passe, and I have a tendency to live in the past. But would it be with this committee's servicing or its preference of doing a recommendation to the city to look into the rental? Well, wait a minute, Kyle, would that be feasible to put in 7 classrooms there, just because of its proximity.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to meet, I'll get in the words of Brian Dakin, anything can be done with engineering and money. I'll credit him to that. But we have to meet every type of standard
Yeah.
with fire codes and exit codes, and I'm sure breaking that up would be an HVAC project. They would have to isolate each space with fresh air. It's a lot different than just an open, like if you walked into Rite Aid. But it's something first thing would be to give it to an architect and say, here, make this building code compliant for a student occupied building. Start with that. How much would it cost?
If I may.
Yes, please,
Sorry.
please.
But just because I literally walked through it this weekend, but I know different state, different scenario, but Burlington, Vermont has repurposed a mall into their high school and it's occupied.
Mhm.
So much larger than this, but there's precedent for it. It can be done, as Carl's saying. And I think if you had an architect, I bet it's been done in more places than Burlington, Vermont, because a lot of these commercial places are empty and the cost of construction for new all buildings, let alone school buildings, is just phenomenally high.
Yes, please.
How are we making with space?
So I did give an update on Tuesday, we're right up against it, so, I'm gonna forget exactly which period is which, but. From the 4 blocks of the school day, there's one period that there are 4 rooms open. There's one period that there is 3 rooms open, one period when there's only 1 room, and one period when there are 0 rooms. So we're right up against it, but that did not include this room. Which I talked to the high school about. I think I said all this on Tuesday, so sorry if I'm being redundant, but they'll use this as when they have outside consultants come in to meet with kids, and so they're gonna need to use the space during the day, which is fine, not every day, not all the time.
Which they already do.
I'll say, I was
yeah.
gonna say, they use it all the time.
They do, yeah, yeah.
It's a lot.
You see students in there a lot.
But I did talk to Chris and Caitlin about it. They don't feel like there's any need to pull out the structure or change. They feel like the space where it is sufficient. They want to put whiteboards on this wall over here. And we'll probably take down that TV since we have the big one over here that we use now anyway, and just put 2 whiteboards over there. And they feel like that would be fine.
Yes, Stacy.
Please. You talk about Rite Aid and, yeah, anything can be done over there. But I don't look at it as accessible for the students that might have to change classes, might have to come here for a cafeteria. I could see it more if you're looking at taking her office away and throwing her over there.
That's what my thought was.
That type. But as far as students, I don't think that would be reasonable or fair to those students, but I see where you're coming from. I think to use it for something else would be great. My comment that I was going to make. Gosh, I forgot when I had my hand up first. I'll come back. Pardon me?
Nothing.
Oh, you know what? I know what it is. I just, before we're going on to a different thing, I want to make a motion to accept, to make recommendations to the committee to do the bid docs, finish that, but not follow through with trailers and
Task 1 and 2.
task 1 and 2, finish that
I
off.
think the committee already voted on
Yeah.
that. To do that,
Yeah,
Last time,
yeah.
this committee,
No, didn't the whole
the
committee
whole
vote?
committee did.
when
Yeah,
was that?
July
I don't
meeting,
remember, but I remember us talking about that and voting on it.
yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Did it come out of plans and maintenance?
I just got here.
I don't remember the exact iteration. Do you remember,
I
John?
thought it came out of Ways and Means.
I thought it did come out of Ways and Means, now that you say that, yeah. And the
Was it-
committee voted to
That's
let
what we
them
discussed.
proceed,
Yeah.
through the end of phase 2, and that then we would reassess. And we scheduled this meeting because we thought we would have the
Presentation.
results
Have
of
an
phase
update,
2.
a better update.
Yeah.
Right, because at plans and maintenance last month when we talked about finishing
Yeah.
up task 2.
Yeah.
This
Right.
But I
was
didn't
the
know it
goal.
went any
It has to
further
be
than
done,
plans and
and it's
maintenance.
not.
So I think that what you're really looking for is just a 2-week extension, and I don't know that that needs a vote or.
Nope,
No,
Yeah, I viewed it more as if you want to tell them to stop. then let me know, otherwise
No,
I'm telling them to
Kyle
continue.
seems to want,
Yeah.
Kyle seems to want to have, I think the consensus is that we would like to have the report, so yeah, I just didn't wanna, I just wanted like a drop dead figure. I don't want you to come back and say, John, we spent 200 grand for something we're not gonna do.
Yep.
That kind of hurts.
Understood.
'Cause 55 is, you know, it is what it is. I mean, if we're gonna spend 50 on door handles, I guess 55 for reports.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with the door handles. I mean, some kids have trouble with doorknobs, that's why the doorknobs. are
And I'll
going
just say, those doorknobs are expensive. You're looking at $600-700 a
Mhm.
set. They're
Yeah.
not like
No,
a
it's just the
$35.
You know, it's amazing. you know,
Yeah.
It's just, it's
It's,
the cost.
yeah, it's not like that. It's gotta
No,
meet
no,
all
it's
the
the cost
fire
of it.
codes and everything else.
That's
so,
life to it.
The estimate for the new high school is $650 per
Per
door.
door.
For hardware.
So,
Wow.
it's amazing, but
So
All
is
right,
that
so-
what is in the plant and maintenance minutes that I can refer back to?
I think it was in Ways and Means, wasn't it?
No, I think it was,
I mean,
no,
not-
I agree. I
not-
think it was, no, hold on, I'm gonna take that back. I think it was plant maintenance that we talked about.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't think it was waiting. I'm on both, so I got a little confused. I'm sorry.
yeah,
I think it was plant and maintenance, so we just, that's where, yeah, we
Yeah.
discussed in plant and
I
maintenance.
remember that,
You were there.
and that was a Zoom, yeah, that
I
was,
was
you
here
were-
on
yeah.
Zoom,
All right,
It was plant and maintenance.
so I was right.
what
I
was right?
apologize, yeah.
What-
Well,
I wasn't privy
It
to.
was a
the
plant
studies.
maintenance
you
meeting
were
and not
on
Ways
it,
and
you were
Means.
on that meeting.
complete task 1 and
Late, but
2
you came.
Yeah,
and present the
plant
Oh,
results.
I wasn't a member.
I'm on both committees, so I'm just,
All right,
whatever.
so that the consensus we have now is to continue with the study and
Get it and probably enter that in the
Yeah,
draw, but
and then-
we'll have it.
Go from there.
Right. In
So
2
that'll-
weeks.
Much needed.
But did we vote to not go forward with the trailers? I don't
We have-
remember
No,
that.
we have. We haven't got all the.
no, you
information.
you didn't vote to not go forward, you voted to
Get the
see what,
information.
at
Get
the
the
information.
end of track
Get the
two,
information.
and then decide whether to
Right.
proceed or not.
So we'll go there.
Thank you.
all right, but I'm still interested in Rite Aid. Can we include that in the study? See if it, number one, it may not even be available. They may be renovating it now to put in a car wash.
Yeah, there's apartments going there.
Oh, that, yeah, every place
Are
else.
they really?
Would that be
No,
possible?
I'm just
On the
assuming.
elevated?
I definitely
So
think
they're
it's
not
a
looking to
discussion
give
with the
away the
city.
land.
I just looked it
Yeah,
up, and
right.
it looks like an LLC owns it.
Well, that's how.
So the Revere Works LLC is listed as the deeded owner. I have no idea who they are.
What's
but
the name
going
of
through
it?
the city.
Revere Works?
It's on the Revere GIS. It says the owner is Revere Works, LLC.
how long have they owned it? The same.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Patriot
so I think-
property.
the next step on that would be outreach to the city to say
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
owns it, who controls it, is there an opportunity, et cetera.
Well, I think before we do that, we should find out if could we do it? I mean, the question if it's available is immaterial. If the state or someone says, no, you can't convert it. You've alluded to the fact that there are places that have done it, whole malls.
Yep.
So Fred, would it be possible if you request Patrick to look into the information of who owns it? And then perhaps further we can discuss more?
Well, I mean, I want a consensus. If I'm the only one that feels it's feasible, knowing I slept back and forth to, for it. And I don't think it's that far across the street. I mean, that's it.
If I have to
Educationally-
pee, I need to be right there. I'm not crossing the
Keep raising
street.
your hand.
I mean, I think my thought would be that if there was space outside of this building somewhere in this city, I would more so rather the administration be in that
I
That's
building
what I was gonna say.
I agree.
The
and have
superintendent may
all
not
the
be
students
comfortable.
within one
Right,
building,
right.
you know?
That's what, whether or not. they
But I
would be
think there might
comfortable
be
with it.
plans, I'm not, I mean, don't quote me on this, ask Mayor Keith, but I think there may be interest in that.
I would
property
say
already.
it was better than when it was the city ad. So,
Mhm.
right on Broadway.
How much, can I ask Kyle this question? I know you're not gonna get a tape measure right now, but how much space, if they move through all the offices, how much space would we pick up? What are we talking?
I mean,
Is it worth
it's bigger than this. It's bigger than what we use here. But we
That's my
use, we
point.
use a lot of space here. We use, and I would put it to the mayor to see if we could acquire it for city offices.
Mhm.
And then possibly
Get a-
share it if
share
it's big enough. If not, we make it a school department administration building. Just to, as a feasibility study to look at that. I mean, that place, you never know, the owner may be looking to sell it and they may be looking to say, no, I'd rather lease it. But we don't know anyone's intentions. I know they're probably not looking to donate a piece of commercial
I'm
property
sure,
to the
no,
city.
no. But I'm wondering
So-
how much space, if we move the administrative offices, how much space are we actually picking up? What's the cost?
Well, just by my recollection of Rite Aid, I'd say it's a lot bigger than what we're
No,
using.
but I
I
mean,
think
how
that's
much, how much are
here.
we picking up here?
I would say that when you pull out all the fake walls that we put up over the years, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 classrooms.
Okay.
Substantial,
Jamie.
because it's all of
sped
this and all the
department.
way over to special ed,
Right.
you know?
Well,
But though, just to, put everything on the table. Even us all moving out of here and converting this into classrooms. First, we'd have to get access to that property over there and then go through all of the same kind of
mhm.
construction stuff that we're talking about. Then we'd have to move over there, then they would have to do some construction work in here. You're probably 2 years away from that.
Yep.
And then again, we're 1 year, God willing, till we're all over, and well, they're all
We keep
over in the
saying
new building.
And if you
Is
don't,
it
and if you
three?
don't
I
own
thought
the
it was
building,
four.
you're still, you're at the mercy. If
Yeah,
you don't own it, you're at the
Right.
mercy. So you could do
It
all
is
of that
four.
construction.
let's,
Four.
oh, four,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
everyone's saying 3 today, and I'm like, no, it's not 3.
Yeah,
I'm
that-
hoping it's 4.
That was making me a little nervous too.
All right, I'm gonna ask a question is, has the plans for the new high school, including all the administrative offices?
No, the
Central
plan is that
offices
we're gonna
stay.
stay here,
So when this converts, you're still gonna be here.
correct?
Right, just one financial point on the conversation, remember. The classrooms were going to be net school spending eligible costs, at least for a certain number of years. If the school committee so decided, which you did in the budget that you voted. But this conversation about secondary spaces,
Above them.
leases,
It's not.
Doesn't count.
it is not a school committee decision to make, it would be
Yeah.
a city cabinet.
City side.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I get you.
So,
That's a totally different
yeah,
funding source.
Thank you.
Stacy,
so Fred, if someone wants to make a motion for the city to look into the feasibility, if that would help you with your,
I just think it's an opportunity, whether we avail ourselves, whether the city avails itself, because fewer and fewer opportunities are coming down the pike. And the school committee, the school department's gonna suffer for it in the long run, because everything that's coming in. I mean, I know in Florida, when they get a new section, they plan fire stations, schools, administrative offices, county offices, before they put a shovel full of dirt. Here, they try to squeeze everything in, and you can only squeeze so much.
so again, did you want a motion?
I would ask for just to, part of, we're doing feasibilities, so, just to see if, but again, to refresh my memory, you're not in favor of having the kids go across the street to Rite Aid.
I'm not.
Well, the one thing that's been spinning in my head is one thing that's different from when we were all kids and going to school is the liability rate. And I'm thinking especially of kids who get transportation to and from school, when we have to transport them from here to Rite Aid. I know it's just a block, but there are some kids who couldn't walk that in between classes. And so are we exposing ourselves to other different kinds of charges if there are particular classes over there that some kids can't access unless we get them to and from, and then what kind of expense does that incur? So I would say, short answer, no, I'd rather the kids stayed here and we moved. If,
That's,
I have a question.
Yeah.
So,
this, John,
to Kyle, would be, just say, all things being equal, it'd be easier to make it office space than it would be to
Oh,
make classroom
absolutely.
space. So
Yeah.
there's a savings, that's all I'm trying to say, yeah.
absolutely.
There's different
And
red
one-
tape, there's different regulations,
Just if I could add this in, just because I have a bunch of documents, the square footage, the gross square footage of this admin office is about 16,000 square feet.
Wow.
The gross square footage of that building is 16,000 square feet.
no,
Oh, wow.
wow.
You can take the whole thing.
Just measuring off a map, but
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have lists of this space, but measuring that off the GIS
So I
map,
think
it's,
that's what I think. That's
it-
big.
it's weirdly similar.
Wow.
There was that much space here.
I didn't realize there was
What
that
do you
much space
include in
here.
that 15
Yeah.
here?
For the 15, that's this is like the list, I can zoom in on it, just.
No, I don't.
How much is this room? It
uh,
has to be over 1,000, right?
Superintendent's office, building, ground office, distance.
Yeah, 100.
Well, see, the difference is that if something were to be done with moving new people there,
Yeah.
that would take out of the new high school space for your people, either more for academic and or.
You don't have
classroom
space for
development.
new high
Appreciate the
school.
help.
It's bigger.
I
There's
think-
no space.
No,
for-
that's right, you're staying
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
you're staying here.
Okay,
All right, so entertain a motion to request the city to look at the feasibility, what would, how? You want me to meet with
Of space
Patrick
and
himself?
for
I mean,
administrative
Patrick's on the school committee.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, Pat, we
I
could
mean,
make
just have
that
a
motion
conversation.
to the school committee to have a conversation about looking into
Okay.
the fees, the rent, renovate, or buy the property at Rite Aid.
but Diane has a good point. If it's a 2-year project, we're halfway to the high school.
I can't see it taking 2 years to move the offices over.
I'd say at least a year and a half for everything. At
It's
least.
all this bureaucracy,
No,
like the
just
same
the-
thing with
yeah,
like,
I mean,
like
going out to-
Brian
going
saying,
out to
like,
big-
we thought we could just get classrooms out here, right? But once it becomes a construction project, now you gotta do the bid docs, now you gotta go out to bid, now you gotta, well, like, it's just crazy to me how long this stuff all takes.
Well, you
But
gotta,
if, it's, an important point on that, Dr. Kelly, is if you were putting students in there,
Yeah,
Take one.
that adds a whole lot of time.
Right.
If it was
Just
office
in
or
the-
admin,
yeah,
You know what I mean?
Might be
Because you
easier.
can't just say, here,
No,
to your friend, here, here's
Yeah.
the.
In 2 years.
All right, people, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She brought your rent to the rent.
you want me to get you the hammer?
Because it's already been empty.
it would definitely need more or less to be rebuilt in the code. It would be a change in its occupancy use, anyway, but the point I was making is occupancy use for office or administration doesn't bring along a whole amount of reviewing with MSBA. If you were to put students in there,
Mhm.
now you're discussing it with DESI, you're discussing it with MSBA, and your timeline's just gonna get
It's a
there.
lot
Yeah.
more, it's a
Yeah.
lot more involved.
One more question and we'll let it go.
John, go ahead. Go ahead.
Is there any benefit to having the offices there somewhat permanently and leaving the building?
Parking,
I think we're coming into a squeeze where we're gonna be looking for space regardless of what we use it for.
absolutely.
Whether we use it for offices and our classrooms go to where the offices.
My thought is it's a more of a long-term move than a short-term move, is all I'm trying to say. It's not like you're gonna move back when the school building will.
I mean, if you keep waiting for the space
Well-
at the McKinley, that's,
If,
That's
if,
been gone.
if they leased it,
I'm saying a
For a
10-year
couple-
lease.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Instead of a 3-year.
I'm
'Cause we
saying,
don't-
I was
and-
gonna say
and I- with all due
ultimately, it
respect, I
might be
hope
better
it's
for us
full,
to
but
move
God
back
Yeah,
here
no, I
when this
get it.
building's empty, cause then it's free,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm,
You're not paying a leasing fee or whatever.
mhm.
My just thought was down the road. I mean, if we're looking at 1,800 middle school kids now. And the building's not big enough, I don't know what the size the building is for, but I mean, if the school population grows a little bit, you might need this space. The space we're talking about for the middle school.
Yeah, it might end up getting tight, you mean, for a middle school too? I
I think about
agree.
that a lot, because
Yeah.
you're at about 1,800 kids, I mean, give or take, I mean, I might be off 10 or 20,
Yeah.
but I'm close. So you're at 1,800 kids now, and we're saying, oh, the building's too small for 2,000, well, it's not that much more.
Right, but one thing, that I think the school committee should look at, and this, I'll be gone before this happens, but. When the new building opens and we think about the redistricting, does the Rumney Marsh Academy building remain part of this? As a central middle school? And then, they have that space, maybe that's a center for STEM or,
Yeah, no, I know the
Whatever.
options, I'm just saying.
you know,
I-
like that would
As opposed to
alleviate
being
some
an
of that
As I look at the
space,
numbers,
yeah.
I'm just saying to myself, because I agree with Freddie, unfortunately, I think the city, I think it's just been historically that way, you're a little older than me, but it's usually a short term, for the most part, people think short term, because they're trying to get through the day and all that, so. I'm just trying to, yeah, but I can see the city balking, I've talked to Pat about it a couple of times, because I said to him we should really buy it. He said, A, we don't have the money, and B, it's prime real estate on Broadway.
that's what they're looking
We
at.
don't
taxes.
want, it's not a place to put your admin office. But I drive through Peabody all the time at work, and Peabody's administrative building's right on the main street. So.
A lot of communities.
But I think I totally agree, I'll second the motion if you'd like, that we
Okay,
look into it, it's not gonna hurt to look.
Stacy, you want to call it or you
Pardon me?
ask it?
But I'm saying office space, not for school, I
No,
can't.
no,
I
no,
can't-
no, no. That was my initial intent, but the administrative part, then that frees up whatever's here.
Perhaps maybe just open it up to explore external space. Not necessarily just Rite Aid, but
Mhm.
maybe just have a conversation, about maybe there's available buildings that we're not even thinking about, or we don't even know, or.
The store 24
You
next
know,
to.
maybe just kind of open it up to have a discussion about, looking into external.
The
properties.
thing with that is it lingers and it lingers. If we're specific, then they have no excuse to say, well, maybe, this way we're looking for something.
Okay.
Because anything bigger is gonna be developed into apartments or whatever. It's units on the beach, they're putting 2 more stories on, it used to be 8 units, now it's gonna be 12 units. Everyone wants to come to Revere and they're bringing kids with them. And the empty nesters are a bigger problem than the apartments. It's something that, house that has 3 bedrooms and no kids, they're gonna at least minimum 2, 3 kids. So I think if this is a solution to administrative now and forever, whether we buy it, lease it or whatever, that takes care of that problem down the line.
No
Right,
matter what, it's up to the city to decide if they have the money for the building,
Mhm.
or any building for that matter.
but Stacy did, well, I've lived through this, there's no money for it, but as soon as they want something, the money appears. So, I mean, if we're assertive and this is crunch time,
But that's a council right now that's not going, they just approved the new high school. And it was a killer. It was a matter of Ryan and Dianne and everyone else meeting with each individual to show the necessity and the cost factor. So, I mean, it's up to them to approve it.
Stacy, you're not that naive. There was more behind that than just the high school. So let's not even go there. It's there. You've done yeoman work. It's reality. A lot of people are still shaking their head. Whether it was arm twisting, whether it was promises made, I don't know. But let's stick to what we have here. This is a problem. If we don't start it now, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it's gonna be, it's gonna be a problem. As Diane mentioned, she won't be here. Chances are we will, hopefully, but that's not the point. So at least, if it's with the approval of the motion made and seconded, that, we inquire as to the feasibility of renting, or buying the Rite Aid site. I mean, it's got plenty of parking. It's the future. It could be turned into anything, any city activities, school department activity. But if we don't start protecting our flank, there's not gonna be nothing left. It's gonna be nothing left. All right, so on that end of it, any other comments before we, one thing, I've heard complaints of, Kyle, this will be addressed to you through this, teachers apparently, whether it's a minority of them or whatever, everything from rodents to whatever's going on. Any validity to any of this?
I'll say that when it comes to rodents and any type of pest, we live a full-time battle with that.
But it's the city, it's not just the schools.
Right, but we are at war with them.
And they're gonna win.
Rodents. Then I don't agree
They
with that they're
survive.
winning. If you go to Lynn, Chelsea, they're winning. We are fighting them like the cats and dogs, and we have a full implemented pest management program. That takes everybody. That's not just mouse traps or poisons, which we very limited that we can use in the schools.
Okay,
But it has to do with keeping the trash off the floor and outside of you won't see orange pails out there. We're picking them up. We know what brings them, but we'll never stop them 100%. There's nothing that stops them coming in through the vents or through the, the garage at the Garfield, through the open air doors. We're at war with them. And it's no one sitting on their hands saying, I hope no mice come here today. And if they do, we're in trouble. We have mice traps everywhere. We have rat traps. We have bait traps. We have gels for certain bugs that we run into.
what was their initial
I think
argument?
if somebody will, on occasion, I know they use the word rats, but I've not seen a rat or in
And
the
union
inside
did-
of the school.
union did send us one picture that we confirmed that they were claiming was a rat, that we confirmed was a mouse.
And it's mostly
Okay,
mice.
That's, see, this is, I want
It's
clarity.
mostly mice,
because
but I
people
would
here-
not rule out the fact that a rat could come in this building. It could, if it
That's-
wanted to, it would can find a way to get in here.
Yep.
Sometimes there's through a garage in the morning when they open it up, they let the buses out. You name it. It's,
Mhm.
these buildings are warm at night. There's food here. That's what we try to prevent. If them coming in. If they do come in, we try to target them. The biggest thing that they can do is to report it.
Mhm.
Maybe it's great that they went on the school committee and said, hey, there's a mice in my classroom. That's fine, because the minute they do that, we attack that area. And that's the way a pest management program works, is reporting and keeping the food out of their noses. So if someone says I have a mouse in my room in 315 gets surrounded by glue traps. Now we hopefully
Mhm.
knock down some type of future infestation and we catch them out.
So it's
and
not
we
being,
dispose
it's
of
not being hidden, it's being acted upon.
I know, I mean, I would never say that there was no pest
No,
rodents.
because you, that, no.
That my
hear
job
you.
is to prevent infestations, and that's what we do.
What
And
other
I
complaints?
just have to say that the custodians that work for the school department are absolutely unbelievable. They respond within minutes if they get one of these calls. And I've seen it happen in a couple of different instances where they're there immediately. They take it very seriously.
We
They
have,
were offended by the comments from the teachers.
Well, and
I wasn't offended.
I didn't say
I
you
wasn't
were. The
offended
custodians
because
were.
I
The
understand
custodians
what
were.
it's like to see a mouse as a teacher and freak out. That doesn't amaze me that somebody's doing that. But when you look at the big picture and you know you got an exterminator coming twice a month and then he's filling out reports saying, how's the activity? How are the bait boxes? Are they being eaten? No, if the bait isn't being eaten, there's two things. You either don't have any mice
Well, yeah.
or they're avoiding the bait and you got them in the wrong place.
Mhm.
When you're seeing them eating it, you know you've got mice, but you're addressing it. So that's the way it works. We look at the activity on the baits and we surround it. If we're not seeing activity here on the bait, but we're saying, they're hearing noise over here that there's mouse in, a certain classroom, we'll move them around or get more aggressive than in that area. And you can track it. I mean, every mouse we've caught is tracked. Every bait box that's been affected is tracked. And we can see activity, non-activity. Sometimes it's high activity. Now we know, all right, it's ramping up over here at this particular dumpster area. Let's get a little more over there. So there's I'm confident in our exterminator.
Okay, no, that's.
And it's something nobody sees. So when they see a mouse, they don't see the activity that goes on and the aggression that we're going after it with.
Well,
So it
of
exists.
all the complaints that I would say that I get, I've never, this was never one of them. So, and I don't think it was until it was on the news.
Mm.
Well,
that
that's
it
the
became an
concern I
issue.
have, is I'm coming on the tail end of it. And it sounds like the Pied Piper's coming through, that we need the Pied Piper to get rid of them. And so, I mean, people can make accusations. You're addressing it. It's minimal. It's get on with life. I mean, how many have them in
I
their
think
house? I
sometimes we have to
mean,
consider the source.
And we do our best too, but I also understand their concerns. When you see a mouse, you freak out,
concern
that's,
and panic are two different things.
I know, but it's natural.
And how it's presented. There's a mechanism, gotta be a form. It goes into the, and it's taken care
But
of.
that's the most effective way is to report it.
Yeah,
And some people will say, I've had a mouse in my classroom for 3 years.
Yeah.
Never. reported.
Never reported it because we have all the track records of the reports that come in
Yeah,
because
good.
we give them to the exterminator.
Right.
So, sometimes people can get, and there's also people trying to save the mice, just so you know, who have taken their mouse traps and thrown them in the trash so that we don't hurt little Mickey Mouse. So,
Science.
The boundary.
yeah,
I'm gonna assume they're science.
yeah,
teachers.
just animal lovers.
Stacy,
Yeah, I just want to say, I know one of the people that spoke on the rants and we're talking about them running rampant in the locker rooms. Didn't even work at the school.
Right.
So
Really?
it's like all hearsay,
Mhm.
but then I'm grateful for people like phys ed teachers that do work here that say, I've been there for a couple of years, I've never seen one.
but you don't hear from that. All you hear is the negative.
That's what I
Yeah.
mean, so we can't always listen to people that assume.
But I would
It's like
never,
everything in
But
Revere.
I'm not, we're listening and this is evident. It's the person out there that may pick up a paper or may, yeah, gotta be careful. And this is, we don't need this publicity. So, I mean,
It's hard to combat
That was
that, and
really
I
naive
know
of
that,
them.
Principal Bowen did email, I think there were 3 people that night who spoke about seeing rodents at the high school in particular. And, Principal Bowen reached out to all 3 of them directly and said, please tell me where you saw them. Please give me more information so that we can address it. All 3 of them said, oh, I didn't see it, somebody
Someone
told
okay,
me.
so there it is. All right,
So,
but we're rest assured that it's
Right.
under control.
but
Yeah.
it's under control for sure. But for us to say we've never had
No,
a rat,
no.
never seen a rat, that's not true.
that's not true.
They're throughout the city, throughout the
What
Commonwealth.
other complaints did they have?
Um,
I'm not familiar with.
Mold, flooding.
yeah, one of them, their complaints was plumbing issues. Plumbing issues will, if you own or live in a house, you're gonna get them there. if you counted how many toilets we have in this building and sinks,
Okay,
there's
but
tons
they're
of them.
addressed, the problems are addressed.
Yeah, so and that's the thing is that to attack the problem. We're not gonna say whenever some kid decides he's gonna take all those brown paper towels and stuff it down a toilet,
Yeah.
you have a major plumbing problem in your building. That's gonna have to be addressed.
And so the other thing that I want to add, in addition to our custodians, we have a phenomenal maintenance team.
Yes.
Which includes plumbers, electricians.
You have tradespeople, you're not calling in, they're here.
Exactly, they're here, and Carl, they deploy very quickly everywhere, depending on the degree of the emergency. And they take care of everything,
And I'll tell you, it's a skeleton staff.
yeah.
It's no phantom maintenance staff, but they're very small. And they react, you'll find the plumber reacting to an electrical problem, the electrical problem, just to get it under control. And it's who's closest and who can get there the fastest to make it safe.
All right,
That's
now we're
first
on
step.
electrical. What's going on with the Hill School?
The Hill School, so
conditioning.
the air conditioning, we, like anything else, you own a house, something's gonna break. What broke is something that's been constantly maintained over years. It's a sealed air conditioner compressor. It's met its end of life. We going out to get a new unit and they're telling us that it's a 10-week custom-made compressor that we need to wait. We're on week 8, week 2 of a
All right,
10-week.
I heard that it was a specific design, not just off-the-shelf compressor.
It's what we put in the Hill School. So it's a DAC system. It's what we put in. It's what we all decided would be best for that building.
No, but I'm saying is the replacement is available, it's just gonna take. X
They have
amount
to
of
make
time.
it. So anything we need,
is
we
custom.
tell them, yeah, it's custom made, but that's how they build all their equipment.
No, I'm trying to get a picture as to how come, but it's
yeah.
addressed.
Yeah,
You can't do
it's-
anything else.
It's just to look at it like, they don't just have things on the shelf. They made a giant piece of equipment for our school. Up in Canada, that's where all this stuff comes from. If you need a new piece, you call them and say, we need a new piece. They'll say, no problem, we'll make that for you.
But through the superintendent, the classes or whatever, the recommendation was to ship them in from A to B or.
Yeah, so
that the
this
summer
is one of the
programs.
smaller, it's actually better, it's the cooler side of the building
Okay, But it's
on.
addressed, it's in the process.
It's in
of
the
being
process.
elected.
Our fear is that there's a big push to kind of speed up that 10 weeks.
Okay.
A lot of times people cover themselves and say 10 weeks. Can we get it in 6? That's what we're
Yeah.
doing. So we got all our feelers, we got some good connections out in the industry.
Good, all
And
right.
just say, hey,
And-
get it to us as fast as humanly possible. And do you have one on the shelf? Is one of our first questions.
Good.
Their answer was no.
And it's only one portion of the building that's affected,
No,
so
that's
it's
what I
not like there's
understand.
no
Yes, no.
AC in the building, most of it's.
Right, yeah, out of the 2, it's a third of the building, and of that third, that's the smallest section of the building. It's only 2 floors. It's not the cafeteria, it's not the 3rd story
Okay.
level, it's a second.
No, my concerns on everything that's been addressed so far, there's a solution in the making.
Yes.
It's
The-
not
the
something that's
biggest-
being ducked, it's not
No,
something that.
The
wait
biggest
till-
concern is if we may open up first day of school with this issue, and that's what we're trying to beat.
Okay,
That's the clock we're up against.
thank you, John.
Why did it feel so early? The school hasn't been open that long. I'm not saying you, it has nothing to do with you. It's just, like no 10-year warranty, no 15-year warranty, nothing.
You don't have a 10-year warranty on anything in that school. Other than the roof, right? This is HVAC equipment. When you HVAC equipment, you have a 1-year warranty. And that's from the time you turn it on. So that most of the time, those things are expired by the time you open the door to the school.
Wow.
Which was the case in this case.
Right, and it's
Yeah.
every case, because
But-
no company says, I'll give you a 10-year guarantee on your refrigerator.
Yeah.
You don't get it. Your hot water heater, you don't get it.
No,
This is
someone
just-
hit me with that on the
It's
street.
just
They
the-
said,
yeah, but I
"The school's
hope-
not that old, how could that have gone?" And I said,
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you
Right.
mean you don't know?
But
I don't
it's
know.
10 years old,
Right.
and the piece of
people are
equipment is probably 12 years old.
And people are surprised to realize that the Hill School is 10 years old now.
I didn't realize that, so I was looking at some old pictures.
Yeah,
I
It's
mean, when
pretty
you look at
incredible.
our new, we say we have all new schools, and you look at the Whalen School in the Rumney Marsh, that's 19 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
no, I
That's
agree.
when
No, no,
things start to break. So I'm be more surprised that the Hill School, it's actually more concerning than anything that we're losing equipment after 10 years
Well,
where,
that's why I want that.
but that's just the world we live in now. If
Well,
you're
when
in
people
that,
ask those questions and we have the answers.
right, Oh, that was the first thing I asked is, what was the warranty on that piece of equipment?
That could-
No, I'm sure you did. I'm
One
just trying
year.
to- It's just,
I was
it's
like,
more than
okay.
one person said to me,
Yeah.
how could it, the building has
Yeah.
been old that John, you know, what the hell? And I'm like, I don't know, I'll have to find
Yeah,
out.
no, I agree, but that's, when you're
It's
up
life, I
against,
get you. No, I
you
get
know, and nobody's in the business to make anything that lasts forever either, because
No,
they,
and they don't
you
keep
know, they're not in
inventory
business
because
too long.
that's,
Right.
that's lost money. All right, any member of the committee, anything else? Stacy, John?
No, sir, I'm all set.
Thank you for coming, Alicia. Thank you for coming. Any member present would add, detract, or,
Can I just say thank you, Kyle, for sitting over there the night of all the complaints and sitting there
Yeah.
and taking it and being patient.
I'll be honest, I hear both sides, and I know that they have some reasons to do their, that was part of, some of their frustrations. I'll take the message any way I can get it.
Mhm.
So you can email me, you can call me, you can
Yell.
tell a friend, or you can come up in front of the school committee and tell your concerns. But there's much better ways to report a problem. I can tell you that. But I heard them loud and clear, I'll tell you, and
The thing I heard from the custodians, because I asked, was basically what they said to me was some of the teachers are the biggest offenders. They leave food out in their rooms.
that's,
Right.
if you wanna see what happens.
No, but I'm just
on a
saying,
basic school
maybe
day,
that should have been our comeback.
the cleaners sweep every classroom out into the hallway every night.
Mhm.
Just go around and look at the piles. You'll know who the teacher is, who's not, and that's how we find them and quietly tell the principal. This room's a little out of hand. We're finding all kinds of things on the floor that are edible, whether it's the kids' snacks or grapes or raisins. And that's next thing you know, that's where the mice is.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if you wonder how they get up on the third floor, it's because there's somebody who's
Being-
not doing the right thing with their food. And that's why it takes a group effort to control these rodents. It's not just the exterminator and a bunch of traps. It's an effort of,
They're not
limiting
gonna
the
come when
food.
there's no
supply.
food.
Right.
Well, the
They
difference
may
they
come and
do-
look, but they won't stay along and be
Yeah,
happy. Yeah.
but the difference is protocol. You don't air your laundry out in public. I mean, it's embarrassing. If it's true, so be it.
Mm.
But it's casting a lot of
Aspersions
shadows
for no
and people are talking about it, and it's not fair to those that are doing the correct thing.
But that's by design.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Amen. That's unfortunately, that's what it is. Right, thank everybody for coming
Thank
and,
you.
Thank you.
thank you again, meeting adjourned.
Okay.
Give me a number.